happening, guys? Chris VA Travels down here in Farmville, Virginia, and going to visit the MOTON Museum, a civil rights museum dedicated to a boycott that occurred down here in 1951. And been wanting to check this place out. I've got family from the area, and I remember my parents had told me schools were actually eventually closed in 1959, and yeah, they had some friends that had to move out of the area at the time. But yeah, before I get going, I want to give a shout out to Jenny Porter, new Patreon subscriber. I appreciate your support. And before I get going, there's a mural back here. And the school was built in 1939, named after Robert Russa Moton. And quick note, he was born at the Hillsman's house at the Battle of Sailors Creek, not too far from here. I've got a video on that. But you'll see 1947, 377 students. Grew pretty quick, 477, 1950. And in 1948, they had built these tar paper shacks that obviously weren't very nice. So fast forward 1951, there was the big boycott. But yeah, we'll learn more about that as we go inside. And then fast forward to after the whole Brown versus the Board of Education, eventually in 1959, Prince Edward County cut public school funding. So schools were closed in the area in 1959 to 1964. 5 years, yeah, no public school. Pretty insane. So yeah, and this is the old black high school, a one-story building. The white high school was obviously nicer, it was a two-story building. So yeah, that boycott 1951 during the separate but equal days to protest the inferior conditions. So to tell you that this place is open Monday through Saturday, 12 until 4. You'll see right there. But yeah, let me go inside and check this place out. Actually, before I go in, there's a couple of little plaques in front of this thing. Nice sign right here. Oh, and you'll see the Hampton-Sydney Lancers, looks like baseball field right there. Maybe a practice soccer field, some sort of a soccer field. But I'll just read these, like I say, plaques and signs before I go in. I need to find out who exactly this Robert Russa Moton was. Like I say, I know he was born at that Hillsman's house. Here's the school in 1953. Old school bus right here. We want a new school. And yeah, okay, so 100, and like I say, jumped to 450. So students right there. Whenever I look at these old photos, you just look at how people were dressed. Everybody dressed nicer back then. I'm sure they knew that a photographer was coming, but still, people just kind of dressed and were more proper back then, it seems like. Yeah, tar paper building, 1953. Old kind of potbelly stove right there. Here we are, Farmville, Virginia, almost right in the middle of the center of the state. Kind of a little south of the center, but all right, over here, this Barbara Rose John, she was kind of the leader of that strike in 1951. The sun might be better on this side. So, oh, she was born in New York. Okay, so at the age of 16, I thought she was like a teacher or something. She led a student walkout to protest conditions at the segregated Robert Russa Moton High School. Yeah, because like I say, the facilities were inferior. And yeah, you can go ahead and read the rest. But yeah, this sparked the beginning, basically, of the civil rights movement. Yeah, one of the first strikes I know of. So, oh, here's the front of the school right here. Yeah, too bad I don't have a zoom. Check out that old vehicle at the funeral home. So maybe some sort of hearse. But right here, it just says Federal Emergency Administration of Public Works, Robert Moton School, and that plaque says 1959. So, all right, so I'll let you read. All right, wow, so he lived to 100 years old. Good for him. Oliver Whitehill Sr., local plaintiff's civil rights attorney. So it looks like he filed Davis versus Prince Edward in 1951 to challenge the racial segregation in public schools. This case, along with several others, consolidated into Brown versus the Board of Education. Yeah, and it led to that big, obvious Supreme Court decision Okay. Yeah, and it again talks about how it closed its schools in 1959. Yeah, very crazy times. Okay. So just dedicated to the children of the walkout, 1951. Oh, all right, so Francis Griffin Sr. And on this site, April 23rd, 1951, the students staged a strike protesting inadequate conditions. Okay, this is the same thing we've kind of gone over several times. So, and that was put up in 1986. Okay, well, there's a good shot of it right there. Sun's hitting it good. All right, let me go in and take the tour.
One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would now like for all the teachers to please be excused. This is a meeting for the students to talk about the bad conditions here at Robert R. Moton High School. I ask that all the teachers please leave before we begin.
Just watched a 10-15 minute video to start things off, and it was pretty good, pretty informative. And this is the stage where Barbara Johns gave her speech to the students, and museum's back here. And this protest, this boycott of 1951, it was to protest unfair conditions between the black and the white schools. It wasn't to integrate. That came years later. And yeah, the students actually like their teachers. They like the school, but it sounds like those tar paper shacks are what really lit the fuse. They were pretty terrible, it sounds like. Oh, also to tell you, it's free tour, so that's great. All right, this place is huge, a lot of information, a lot to read. Yeah, I'll just show you a few highlights, but like I say, the one-story school, again, built 1939. And the White High School, like I said, a two-story building. Downtown Farmville. And those tar paper shacks I was talking about. Like I say, potbelly stove, and you know it was probably screaming hot right next to that thing, and then cold further away you get. Yeah, here they are. Yeah, just tar paper in between these little pillars. And they had one in front of the school on the yard that I was walking around, and two in the back of the school. Okay, we've seen this picture. Oh, they've got the stove right here. Down here, all the sports teams. And there they are inside of the tar paper shack. Here's the staff. Principal Boyd Jones. And the faculty, it looks like mustaches were the thing at the time. Everybody's rocking a mustache. And this is another thing that kind of triggered the boycott, the protest, is that just a month prior, there was a bus accident. Students had died. Down here they are. And you'll see on a rainy and foggy day, the school bus traveling to Pamplin in the western part of the county stopped as it crossed the railroad tracks at Elm. A train hit the rear of the bus. 23 students on board, some were thrown off, 10 were hospitalized, 5 lost their lives. It reinforced the students' awareness that the county's educational facilities were not acceptable and certainly not equal. And it sounded like she kind of already had the strike in mind, but yeah, this definitely reinforced things. Okay, yeah, we saw this written. And to tell you, the white students went to a private school, black students went to training facilities. and they were also taught by locals. Some college students from New York came down to teach black students. And here she is, Barbara Johns came down here from New York. You can read her bio. And she had previously attended a school out in Newport News that was nicer than the one here. And to tell you, she went on to attend Spelman College, later Drexel. She raised 5 children and worked as a school librarian until she died in 1991. Reaching for the moon. Okay, here's a plaque again. Alright, so here's the NAACP attorney that we saw outside on the plaque, Oliver Hill. Graduated from Howard University, 1933. And here we are, almost like I say, in the center of the state. A little over an hour outside of Richmond. Again, a lot of plaques, a lot to read. Here he is right here. Again, Oliver Hill, and part of the law firm Hill, Martin, Robinson of Richmond, Virginia. Formed the core of the NAACP's legal staff. Over here would be Virginia's defense. We are determined to show that segregation and discrimination were not the same thing. The Cavalier, 1954. I guess obviously this is the white students' school. Okay, a quote over here by Thurgood Marshall. And this is to show the contrast between the, like I've said, the 1-story and the 2-story school. And what really set things off, like I say, were those tar paper shacks, which pretty horrible. Okay, Supreme Court, Brown versus the Board of Education. And here he is, Earl Warren, over here. A pretty good picture in front of the Supreme Court there. Segregation has ended. Like I say, Chief Justice Earl Warren, we conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Alright, so the response to the decision, it could be said that the courts ruled at noon that Negroes must be admitted to Prince Edward Public Schools, to which the county responded at 8 o'clock there will be no public school. Yeah, obviously this famous picture over here at Little Rock, out there in Arkansas. Kind of random, but the days of rock and roll, Chuck Berry and Elvis. And who was over here? Oh, the space race. Okay, I guess just other events that were going on at the time. Over here, massive resistance and kind of a coordinated effort here by all the southern states to resist the decision. And this political cartoon, that's Moses the Crow looking on. There's the CSS Virginia, the Merrimack, the Monitor from the Civil War, Southern Manifesto, 101 congressmen, including the entire Congress of pretty much all the South right there. I don't see North Carolina in there. So, okay, North Carolina holding out, all right. Charlottesville. Alright, so the collapse of massive resistance. In January 1959, the Supreme Court of Appeals and the federal panel of judges declared Virginia's massive resistance in school closing laws to be invalid. Alright, so Virginia Governor Lindsey Almond
And a week after his defiant speech in support of massive resistance, he called an emergency session at the Virginia General Assembly, during which he orchestrated the repeal of the Stanley Plan legislation, noting that massive resistance has run its course. In February 1959, schools that had been closed in Charlottesville, Norfolk, and Warren County reopened. Yeah, Prince Edward held out though, but we'll get into that. Yeah, schools opened back peacefully. Here you see Norfolk and in Arlington. And then over here, this is that Prince Edward Academy that opened for white students. It looks like in 1959 it had $11,000 in cash, $20,000 in 3-year-old pledges. No teachers under contracts, no building, no school buses, and no other tools of education. Here it is right here. Yeah, this is where the white students went. Oh, all right, JFK over here. Yeah, over here are those training centers for African American students in the absence of public education. Here are some of the teachers. And some grassroots schools were started up. Fosse White School, the children were out of school and they needed some place to go to keep them out of mischief and help them continue to learn, keep them interested in learning. Okay. All right, there's the Prince Edward Courthouse. I've got a video, I just made a video on that. NAACP rally at the courthouse. Like I say, this is a pretty quality museum. Yeah, Queens College. Students ventured south to Prince Edward County to serve as teachers to the many children who had been denied an education. Participating in Operation Catch-Up, the college students prepared Prince Edward children for the possibility of schools reopening in the fall. So it looks like in 1963, these free schools opened up. I kind of missed what those were all about, but the integrated schools didn't start till a year later, 1964, so I'm not really sure. And this is the MOTON School right here. Yeah, the free school faculty and staff. I must have missed that plaque, but all right, so Robert F. Kennedy visits May 11th, 1964, and he came down from D.C. via helicopter. All right. Receives gifts from 1,500 plus students. All right, so June 15th, 1964. Okay, so finally get to graduate. Yeah. For 5 years, our community was without any public schools, and because of this, a generation of our children are permanently crippled and disabled educationally. That's Reverend Francis Griffin. Okay, so yeah, we've come full circle back into the auditorium.
That wraps up my tour of the MOTON Museum. And glad I stopped by. A piece of Virginia history you definitely should know about. And yeah, a lot to see, a lot to read. And I didn't want to bore you guys just standing in front of plaques, but if you're ever in Farmville, come check it out. Yeah, guys, so I'm going to get out of here. As always, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.